I am Carl Richardson. I am co-host of the Picture This podcast and co-chair of the Audio Description Project for the American Council of the Blind. And you are listening to the Audio Description Narrators of America Know Your Narrator Series podcast.
Today, we are very honored to feature James Rath. Thanks for joining us, James.
Hi, thank you for having me.
One of the things that's been really exciting talking about audio description quality and excellence is hearing from filmmakers and creators of audio description as well as consumers of audio description. And it seems like we're going to split the difference between both of those for you. Is that pretty fair?
Yeah, I'm coming from a little bit of the perspective of not only being a filmmaker, but consuming film from the blind experience. So I think it's definitely, I'm not in any way a voice actor, but I very much appreciate the work that goes into that.
Let's start off by asking what you love about audio description.
For me, it's about the amount of detail that I've been able to really, I guess, get access to. I didn't ever encounter audio descriptions until I was about, I want to say 18 or 19. I had never even known they had existed. Growing up, there's just so many films I pretty much missed out on. You know, it's one thing with having 5% vision. When you go to the theater and you're able to actually make out everything that's on screen, right? If you're sitting in the first like 5 rows, there's still things here and there I'll miss, but it's a big enough image that I can, for the most part, get through that film. But again, I'm going to miss certain social cues or aspects like that. But with audio descriptions, I've realized how much more I've maybe missed out on, whether it be different characters giving facial cues, or even if there's like a little detail in the background of something happening that's foreshadowing the next sort of sequence or event that's going to take place in the scene. I've missed out on a lot of things like that. And you won't even imagine how many films that, you know, you watch in school on like the small TV that they roll into the classroom on the cart. And no matter what, I can never actually see what movie was playing or how it was playing. So all these films that they showed us in school, they did nothing for me, really. It's like, yeah, here's some dialogue, here's some music. That's cool, but the image is too small, it's too far away, and I just can't retain that information. So audio descriptions in general have just opened up so much titles for me in a way where I've been able to revisit old titles. And I've also just been able to appreciate newer ones coming out.
How did you find out about audio description? What was the way that you learned about it?
I want to say, I think I was just buying movie tickets here in Los Angeles. It was either Zootopia or Finding Dory. No, it was Zootopia. Finding Dory, I got to experience the audio descriptions being synced up through a phone app. I think Disney at the time was experimenting with something, ended up disappearing. I don't know why. They changed the app. It was like Movies Anywhere at the time. But anyway, yeah, Zootopia, I went to go see it. And my friend was like, hey, they have this thing called like AD with the closed captions. Do you know what that's about? And I'm like, no, I don't. So I just kind of looked it up and I'm like, wait, there's a closed caption like idea concept for blind people who go to the movies. I'm like, that got me excited. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's, I'm going to try out this process. Let's talk to associate. Of course, when I got there, they had no idea what I was even talking about, which is a whole other conversation. It still happens today. Along with that, though, pretty much it just didn't work once they got it, quote unquote, up and running. So I didn't get to watch Zootopia with descriptions at the time. I was still curious what this was. And so I decided, I went on iTunes and I saw that iTunes even had a whole subcategory where you could go to like itunes.com/audio description to see over, like, at the time it was like 300 titles. I'm sure it's a lot more now. But we ended up getting, I think it was Everest. I want to say it was Everest, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you remember that film a few years back. But my friends and I, we watched that with audio descriptions. We're like, all right, we're going to check this out. And it's like, yeah, it's narrating this descent up the mountain and like in good detail. It's like just describing what the scenes are really looking like. And it just added so much more value to me and allowed me to not have to sit 2 inches away from a large display. And I could still, watch and appreciate with my friends. So yeah, that was really, I think, my first experience with audio descriptions beyond the first failed attempt. But at least I got to learn and get a real reality check of how it's treated at the cinema.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're addressing two aspects of the value for you and other audience members. First of all, the mere existence of it, the fact that it's there, and then also how to access it. Like once you found out about it, you still couldn't get it. That there was a double gap there.
Exactly. Yeah. And after really being able to experience it, though, I wanted more and I craved it. So I'm like finding out what titles, and then like Netflix was just sort of adding them, I think, at the time and releasing them with a few titles. And obviously that has blown up since. Where even like last night, I got to experience one of my favorite childhood shows for the first time with audio descriptions, which was like, I don't know, it brought a whole other element to that series for me. Like it was cool. So
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about your filmmaking. Knowing about audio description, has that influenced your creation of filmmaking at all, or are you aware of it as you're creating?
yeah, so around the time when I was sort of getting into audio descriptions and as a viewer was sort of when I was actually going through a little bit of a shakeup or shift in what kind of content or formats I like producing, more so genre wise. You know, I had always sort of written these like drama stories, coming of age films, sometimes romance, sometimes just wanting to do like an action scene or something. But I think as I've just sort of really accepted my blindness and into adulthood, and at the same time trying to be as well versed with accessibility, with what my rights are, how to advocate for myself, because I'm about to take on this whole thing called life for however long, and I want to be well equipped and not relying on my folks back at home and some like 4,000 miles away from where I grew up and on my own. And I need to do the best for myself. And at the same time, I learned there's a lot of real stories to capture, a lot of things to sort of advocate for. And documentary sort of became my genre right now. I'm still very much interested in, always looking at how can I tell stories that are impactful, but at the same time, able to write them in a way that's authentic. But documentary really has become the main genre that I like to tell because I get to tell real stories. I think there's so many amazing stories out there in the world that there's still so much more to tell than making up stuff. There's a time and place for everything, but documentary, you have to sort of be descriptive in a way. Like the way I kind of see it is oftentimes in my own documentaries, I'm sort of, even if I'm the director, depending on the format, of course, but I'm taking the audience with me and I'm sort of guiding them on this journey of storytelling about, whether I'm interviewing someone or we are exploring a topic in particular, pretty descriptive about what I'm saying, not only for the subject matter, but coherent for the audience to grasp. Because oftentimes when you're exploring documentaries, you're going in with new topics that you've never really maybe explored or things. So you have to kind of speak in a way that's level-headed. It's meeting the audience. It's kind of compromising with them, right? You can't always go so far in depth. You can, but oftentimes when you're like introducing a new topic, accessibility is unfortunately sometimes a very new topic for a lot of people. And that being a big subject matter of mine, yeah, I gotta be kind of descriptive. And again, I'm not an audio describer. I don't write audio descriptions, but I try to be descriptive with my content. I don't always get it right, but that's where, I also at the same time have been advocating for platforms that I use to provide some form of a audio description setting, whether it's YouTube or I know Instagram could even catch up with captions maybe someday. I started using Instagram a lot more recently, and it's been actually kind of working out. But yeah, that's sort of my take on it is I will be a little bit descriptive in my content, but it's not going to be the expectation of audio descriptions. It's just sort of more so genre. I feel like there's some fundamentals that you have to sort of put into play to make a documentary accessible with the knowledge and information there. So
Let's go back to the platforms.
yeah.
As far as the settings go, have the platforms been receptive when you've reached out to them?
Generic. I mean, when we speak platforms, it's mainly YouTube right now. YouTube has such a dominance, the third most visited website, second biggest search engine in the world. Not counting Facebook. If Facebook is its own self-contained search engine, I guess in a way, though YouTube can be argued. But so anyway, YouTube has a great captioning system, I think, put into place. The auto captions themselves, they're a base, and I recommend always editing them and correcting the grammar and everything. But to actually implement captions and to write captions, your own original ones, or just upload your SRT file or transcript file, it's their system is very accessible. It's a very good closed captioning system. Descriptions, on the other hand, don't exist. And I think it was all the way back when I first really got involved with audio descriptions. Like, I made a video, I think this has got to be 2016, kind of advocating for like, hey, YouTube, you have this existing technology, a built-in video editor on your platform. You've allowed for copyright purposes, people to override audio tracks on existing videos. How great would it be if I could upload a video, have one existent video, but not have two videos living side by side, one that offers descriptions, one that doesn't, one that makes discoverability a lot harder, it splits views, it splits comments, the dialogue. But at the same time, too, YouTube's got a thing called an algorithm, and it's a very unpredictable thing. A lot of people have sort of studied this algorithm over the years, and it's always evolving and changing, and it's trying to feed what the viewer wants, right? At the same time, there's little tactics, little aspects that it has where it tries to combat spam, which is fair, right? You don't want your platform spammed, like someone uploading the same video 30 times just for whatever reason, right? And if I upload the same video, right, one with audio descriptions, one without, YouTube's going to see, even though the audio track might be slightly different, it's still going to see the video itself, the visuals. It's going to scan that, and it's not going to like that. That it's not going to like the fact that I've just uploaded a mirror of the last visuals that I had just posted. So I can pretty much guarantee you that like YouTube is not going to like it if you upload two copies of your video, one with descriptions, one without. So the solution would be similar to the closed captioning system, having a button where the viewer can click it, and if an audio description track is available, it'll play alongside. However, they just don't. And I've reached out to engineers, I've reached out to marketing people, those in charge of trends and analytics, and I've even talked to them directly at events. YouTube even ran a whole accessibility summit at YouTube Space, and they're like, we're looking forward to doing this and making an annual thing. They got hammered by the blind community that they invited for not offering or even having a lot of pushback towards audio descriptions too. It was even just like something like they weren't even really taking note. There was a lot of pushback towards it. They even had a company come in, a company that makes audio descriptions for their own content and probably with other licensed folks, but they were like giving best practices for how to be descriptive in your videos. It's like, that's fine, but creatively, that can be a little bit subjective, content to content, right? And that doesn't fit every format. So the alternative is to just provide an accessible solution. And YouTube just really, some of their engineers were, I'll be honest, like a little, when I say pushback, I mean like kind of giving the idea the cold shoulder, even when like laid out to them. And it's like, I don't know what kind of culture is sort of going on here, because it's like, why not just give me the generic response you would like through email, right? Just say like, thank you, we're always open to feedback, and then just go reassess it. Don't make that decision publicly with the blind community, literally at your facility, right?
At
Like the day of. Yeah, and it was kind of bizarre, and of course they never did the accessibility summit ever again, it was so weird. And it was like, it seemed kind of successful. It was a great way to get the community together. But it came down to YouTube just, they didn't want to play that game for some reason, or whoever was in charge at the time. And again, maybe things have changed if the conversation continues today. I've tried even having that conversation last year at VidCon with a few folks at YouTube, and still just always some pushback. That aside, though, I mean, it's interesting because it's like, why punish making content accessible, right? When I'm trying to play your game, right? So like YouTube, I'm trying to make my content both for a wider audience, but I'm also trying to make it for a blind audience too. So they have something to relate to or get resource or information. But at the same time, I try to make my content formatted in a way that is approachable for just any able-bodied person who has a curiosity about, oh, how does a blind person use a smartphone, or how do they edit video, or even learn to surf. I want to provide that content for those who are curious and want to learn and get more involved. But I also want to make sure that content works for the community that it's about. So it's a little hard to sort of find that balance on YouTube. And I'll be honest, I don't think you can right now without either having a super niche channel, like very niche, where you're going to have a very small audience and discoverability, or two, you're going to alienate your own audience. I try to do my best with what I can. I try to watch all my videos with I use B-roll in content, but oftentimes the B-roll is just a visual description, right, of what I'm actually talking about. So if I'm mentioning back when I was at Cannes Lions Festival, I just have a clip of me on the red carpet right in front of the Cannes, like the dome or wherever where it says the banner. And that's, I think, what I really try to accommodate more so people who are visual learners or people who have like a cognitive disability that just do better with hearing and seeing it, right? But I try to be as descriptive. I try to watch my own videos without looking, right? Without referring to the visuals. So that's sort of my practices right now. It's not perfect, and YouTube could do so much better with that support as a creator. But as of right now, it's a catch-22.
Have you found other platforms have been more accessible as far as audio description goes?
It's hard to say. Vimeo has recently provided a lot more support for that, which is great. Now, for the most part, like most filmmakers, I don't use Vimeo unless it's for showcasing or for embedding and hosting. Vimeo has a beautiful viewer, has a great look to it, but it's really best used not for hosting your content, looking for discoverability. It's really meant to post your work, and people checking out your main site or a blog or whatever it might be. That's where I find Vimeo is most useful. And I think that's how most people use it. Vimeo probably wants to advertise it differently. They probably want to, we're a community of creators. I'm sure you are, but I haven't gotten involved with that community. But yeah, I think Vimeo's done some good strides and efforts in the last year. I don't know the full extent of what they're offering with audio descriptions, but I know there's something there. I've gotten the email, I've gotten the notification, and I'm exploring it this week, trying it out with a particular piece of content. So
You haven't mentioned this in this interview, but there's another opportunity that's kind of, I don't know, jerry-rigged into YouTube on a Chrome browser that we talked about, udescribe.org.
yeah, Udescribe is, again, another thing, an area I'm exploring. It's niche. So there are people who use it. Luckily, I did notice that they have a iOS app. Not sure if there's an Android app, but that way, if you only want to find videos on YouTube that are audio described, again, that's going to very much limit the library of audio described videos or videos in general. But you can go through the udescribe.org app or just on their website. You can search for videos, but it's very small library of the billions of videos, hundreds of billions of videos that live on YouTube. So just kind of keep that in mind. But you can also contribute. That's the thing, is you're able to volunteer your voice to describe some videos. Like if there's a video that you really like, you think it might be beneficial for a blind person to also watch that video, you could describe it, which I think is really cool. And I think maybe there's an opportunity to use some other platform with Udescribe, maybe some sort of partnership. Like you got platforms like TapTapSee and Be My Eyes, right? Maybe get some of those folks to also describe some videos in their spare time if they aren't getting any calls. And I think, that's who knows, maybe that's $1 million idea I'm throwing out there, but keep it, take it. Yeah, make audio descriptions more accessible. But yeah, Udescribe, I'm going to give it a go. I've watched a few things on there. It works. You can only use Chrome or the app. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're looking to explore. But, it's an alternative. It's a way to make it so you don't have to upload the same video twice. So
and avoid all the mirroring appearance of spam.
Exactly. Keep your account in good standing on YouTube.
Let's go back to that $1 million idea or some other $1 million ideas. I think you've already alluded to YouTube being more accessible. They've already got all the technological pieces there. They just need to, whatever behind the scenes, make it happen. What other $1 million ideas do you see in the world of audio description? What would you like to see?
I got to explore this technology while I was in Turkey, but of course, going to the cinema right now is a little, you don't want to go to a theater at the moment with current world events, but when we can do that again, or even from home, not every platform, not every app is offering audio descriptions. Having an app that has a library of just all the content, like imagine if the Library of Congress, right, had an app for audio descriptions only, and their technology just could hear using the microphone on your smartphone what movie was playing, sync up the audio description track, you're good to go. You can now listen to it on your own, watch it with the family, but they don't have to listen to the descriptions. I think that it's already being done. I got to explore this technology while in Turkey. The company Turkcell is working on it. Did a whole kind of segment of a documentary called Blind Abroad, traveling in Istanbul about it. And then even again, Disney, kind of like what I alluded to earlier, one of my early experiences was Disney was playing with that same kind of technology with only a couple of their films that were running in theaters. And it was the Disney Movies Anywhere app,
Mm.
which I think has now completely changed to a completely different platform and might not even offer audio descriptions anymore. It's funny how things just like get rebranded and changed. But I got to watch Dory in theaters with descriptions just through my phone, and I didn't have to run into the same hiccups of going to the theater. Hey, I'd like to get audio descriptions. See my white cane. I'm blind. No, not the enhanced audio.
Oh,
You go all the way to the theater. Nope, they didn't listen to me. They still give me enhanced audio. Going
wow.
all the way back. They still don't understand what I'm saying. I did this. I literally had to walk out on Deadpool 2 because Deadpool 2, I don't know if the rest of the film had a foreign language, but it started out where there were puns and jokes. I think it was in Chinese or could have even been, it's been a while. But there was like a foreign language being spoken. And I'm like, there's subtitles. I want to know what that's saying. I don't want to miss out on information. I don't know how much more of this film is being. Yeah, and I think it was because at the time I was watching all these like Marvel shows on Netflix, and a lot of them just had Russian or had Chinese speaking languages, and I'm just so used to the descriptions reading out the subtitles to me in English, and it's great. But that was frustrating. I'm like, and we're on the third floor. I had to keep coming down 2 sets of stairs. I think by the third time I just said, nope, I give up. Did an Instagram story rant about Regal. This is Regal, by the way. I'm putting them on blast because one, I've been to independent theaters out here in LA that have much cleaner, better radio systems in place for audio descriptions. I'm trying to remember. I wish I knew the name of it. There's an independent theater here in Hollywood. That was fantastic. Like I've never actually encountered descriptions quite like it. Like their system is literally a pair of headphones that were comfortable and had the radio built into the headphones. You didn't have this whole like little wired radio thing clipped to your belt or something. Like it was just a pair of headphones turned on and they were clear. They were like watching descriptions with integrated, so that was great. But beyond that, it came down to like Regal. Just when I lived in Los Angeles central area, there's a Regal 3 blocks from my house, and I loved going to the movies. I think even Movie Pass was out at the time, which I remember that failure. But yeah, I had incentive to go to the films, but then I lost that incentive when Regal just always failed me every time. And even when it did work, it was choppy. It was always cutting out, and they had like a really poor radio system. And it's not just the one Regal theater; it's been multiple that I've gone to. So I try to avoid Regal. AMC has been a much better experience. I even did like the A-list thing once I think Movie Pass went under. I just saw that company getting a little sketchy, so I pulled my membership before they started basically stealing money from their customers and putting up all these barriers in place. So anyway, before the pandemic, I've been going to the movies a lot more, and AMC's just been a pretty good experience. A few hiccups here and there. I make sure I'm clear that it's like audio descriptions describing the narration. Sometimes you have to say it like five times, and it's like, where's the training? I don't know where the training is, but it's not very enforced, I don't think, at any theater really. There's a few obviously, and I think some of the more independent ones take they either don't know at all or don't offer anything, or if they have it, they're super proud of it and very excited to offer it. And they're like, finally I can use this knowledge I was trained on for audio descriptions with that one blind person that's coming for, and who knows, maybe they see more. But I've just had a few independent theaters just really excited staff to get it up and running.
And it sounds like that education that those theaters gave their trainees for different levels of access, not just for deaf people, but for blind people, as well as what you're talking about with a built-in app, whether it's on your phone or a loaner phone from the theater, that makes that accessibility that much more streamlined. That you were talking about the barriers with some of these subscription accounts with theaters, that there's a lot of barriers even when the audio description actually exists.
Yeah, very much so. And that's why I think I've enjoyed watching movies from home a lot more lately, because when it's offered on the platform, it just works. Netflix,
Wow.
Apple TV Plus is kind of wild too, because I've been able to put a show in like French and then the audio descriptions in Japanese. I don't understand what's happening, but it's cool that there's no weird barriers with language,
Yeah.
or region locking. I guess that's the right word. Like, they don't lock the region with the descriptions, right?
Yeah.
Apple's just like, yeah, no, there's French people that go visit other territories. They probably want to watch our show, their native tongue, right? That makes sense. Maybe Netflix should do that more. If Netflix offers descriptions in other languages, it'd be great if they just allowed everyone to access those.
Yeah.
So,
is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
So I always like to say that audio descriptions, if you've never tried them before, they benefit everyone, right? There's universal benefits to it. And one way I even kind of shared this was I made a video on YouTube, a short video, but I think informative about how to watch Netflix while driving. You'd hope no one's searching this up, but I had a roommate, questionable character, never had a good sense of judgment in any scenario. I always hated getting in the car with him because I noticed that like he would start playing Stranger Things in the middle of traffic. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's like people are a lot more coordinated than I assume. So I made a whole video about here's how to watch Netflix while driving, because I have a roommate who likes to drive and watch Netflix, but he likes to keep his eye on the show and not on the road. And I'm like, what is happening? I do not feel safe. I'm never getting in a car with you again. But here, let me show you this great feature. By the way, the person featured in that video is not that roommate.
Okay.
He's my other roommate who has a better sense of judgment, and we just pretty much acted out the scenario. So anyway, yeah, the audio descriptions, they're great. Luckily, I'm offering descriptions in my latest documentary called Blind Abroad. We talked about it earlier a little bit, but it's about like how I travel as a blind person and get around in an airport. And obviously that looks different now because of this was filmed right before we went into a pandemic. But I think it's very eye-opening to realize, like, to watch it now and think, well, with our new normal, what does this kind of look like? And for those who maybe can't watch it to that full extent, there's an audio described version available, which is really cool. And I think it's just going to provide so much more context for a lot of people who the whole documentary is even about.
James, how can people follow you on social media or otherwise?
At James Rath, that's RATH, drop the W. I'm not that angry. And jamesrath.la. And then Blind Abroad, beyond that documentary, it's a podcast. It's also a blog, and it's trying to connect the world a little bit when it comes to the conversation of culture, society, and disability, along with a sprinkle of travel. Obviously, that's taking a little bit of a back burner this next year or so. Yeah. But there's a lot there that good discussions we need to have. So Blind Abroad, all social media, and then blindabroad.com. So
thanks so much for joining us, James. This has been great.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.